Joining me right now on our Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line is none other than my good friend Ian Rapoport from the NFL Media Group. How are you, Ian?
What's going on, Rich? How are you?
I'm fine. What's the status as you and I are talking right here, right afternoon on Wednesday, with Urban Meyer in Jacksonville? Best you can tell.
Well, as best I can tell, he's still Jacksonville's coach. He has addressed, as you mentioned, his team in full. He described himself as someone who embarrassed both the team and his family. He said that he takes full responsibility. He talked about basically how he failed the team and how he should not have done what he did. It was, a couple minutes long. I think it was necessary. It was important. How did the players take it? I don't know, but it needed to be said. I don't think they're going to try less hard on the field. And also they're 0-4, so there really is nowhere to go but up. But I think it was necessary. I haven't heard any change in his job status. I think the remarks by Shad Khan, the prepared statement by Shad Khan yesterday were extremely noteworthy. I honestly can't remember an owner really saying anything like that. That was a very strong public rebuke, and it was not off the cuff. So he is still the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach, but, I would say very clearly been put on notice.
I'll be honest with you. I cannot believe that this is the way the first 4 weeks played out in Jacksonville. I'm trying to, compute that a CEO, head coach who has nothing but winning on his resume, just on the football field, obviously. Off the football field, there's lots of apologies that Urban Meyer has been forced to give in his career. But I still cannot believe that the conversation of whether he and his team can trust him, or that management and his team is questioning their trust level in him. I would never have predicted. Never would have predicted that.
I would
with
agree.
Urban Meyer.
I did not see of all of the NFL scandals. I did not see this coming on my bingo card. I've seen many of them. I've heard a lot of weird, very strange things, but this one I did not see coming. I honestly can't even remember any circumstance of a player not flying home with his team, or a coach not flying home with his team. I guess it probably has happened. I cannot think of any off the top of my head.
Well, in that regard, Ian, he said today, Urban said today that Trent Baalke, the general manager, who was hired after him, and I imagine was hired with Urban's blessing, right? That's the
Correct.
way these things go in the NFL. When you hire somebody of Urban,
has final say on all football and on all hires. So
right.
Yeah.
So that you still have to be able to say, Urban, you do that, and you're opening yourself up to so many problems. I would counsel you not to do that. Don't do it, or something has to be done, right?
Yeah.
I imagine some form of accountability. That would be a blind spot in the flow chart that the Khan family probably didn't see coming, right? That somebody would consider that.
Shad Khan, like all owners, is very rich, has use of a plane. Urban Meyer said, hey, Shad, I'm tired, man. It's been a long grind. I really need 2 days. Can I borrow your jet to go to Columbus after I fly home? He would have given it to him, right?
Right, so, or the amount of money that he makes from the Khan family. That's what Mike Lombardi mentioned yesterday. It's just hey, it's an inconvenience, an extra, 8 hours of plane travel, but at least you fly back with the team and then you wake up the next morning and you go. You're tired when you're around the grandkids, but I'm sure if Urban could wave a wand, he would realize. But let's just say this and then we could put a button on it. What is the rest of the NFL community that you're talking to about your job? Are they all asking you what are you hearing in Jacksonville? Are they just as shocked as we are right now?
They're telling me everything that they hear in Jacksonville.
Okay.
Everyone has a coach that they know or an executive that they know who's heard about, all the things in Jacksonville. And this happens when things start to kind of spiral out of control. Everybody wants to weigh in, and I think like as a reporter, you sort of have to be careful because one of the weird things in our world is when someone comes into it, like Urban Meyer from the outside world, the college world, I think it's fair to say there are a number of people who really would just like him to fall on his face and fail, who thought this was a ridiculous thing for Jacksonville to do and thought he has no business in the NFL. And those people are very happy right now. I don't know how this is going to end. The recent days sort of suggest this might not end great, but we really don't know. They have a great young quarterback, and that's a great place to start. But there are definitely people who are sort of celebrating this and doing the I told you so and then saying, hey, by the way, have you heard about this other terrible thing in Jacksonville? So not a good time to be a Jaguars person. But if they win a couple games and Trevor starts to show the promise that he showed Thursday night, this probably all goes away.
Interesting. Ian Rapoport here on the Rich Eisen Show. So, very rare do we see just flat-out cuts in between weeks 4 and 5 of an NFL season of players who one would think have some trade value. But walk me through the two surprising releases, starting with Jalen Smith in Dallas. Does this have to do with the Joneses don't want to be on the hook for next year if he gets hurt? I mean, what's going on with him right now?
All right, we'll start with Jaylon. I think the main thing, look, they tried to trade him before the season. They offered teams to eat all of the salary but the minimum. They tried to trade him a bunch. I think it's clear his salary kind of outpaced his performance. He is not a starter in Dallas. Wasn't going to be this week. I think Leighton Vander Esch has come on, and Keanu Neal, who makes a lot less money but has played a lot better, is basically the starter. So it's going to be Vander Esch, Keanu Neal, and then Micah Parsons doing many, many fun things on the football field, and Jaylon on the way out. And it was going to be kind of on the sidelines, and you don't want a disgruntled veteran not playing in your locker room, and you're going to pay the money anyway. But yes, the reason that they can't trade him is because the $9 million in injury guarantees next year, that's almost like that you almost can't do that. So I think that's one thing. Look, I mean, he was, the name is a big name, but it was not a surprise that he was released. Like, they've been trying to trade and deal with him for quite some time.
So he's not a starter in Dallas, but there's got to be a bunch of teams that say we can use him. I mean, in significant teams. Not
everybody has a linebacking core like Dallas does either.
Right. So, I mean, and again, I know this could be like fantasy football type conversation because it's just like, well, this team could use him. Sure looks like it, but it might not be a scheme fit or anything like that. I mean, you're talking about the Chiefs having such a difficult time stopping people, and you got somebody like Jalen Smith out there, and now also Stefon Gilmore we'll get to in a second. Where do you think Jalen Smith winds up? First blush.
Well, Ian. I would say kind of like you would think, the teams that need linebackers. So we're talking, Mike, the Packers have a need there, possible. Washington just lost Bostic for the season. Like, they have a need. Cleveland Browns have had some injuries. The Las Vegas Raiders have had some issues at linebacker. I think they'd always like to get better. And the best thing is, so Jalen Smith, it's not good for the Cowboys, but it's good for everyone else. They're paying his whole salary this year. So Jalen makes his money, so he's going to sign for the minimum because Dallas is paying his salary. So you're going to get a good player very cheap.
I bet. I mean, so that's going to be a robust market for him. And why is Stefon Gilmore? I mean, we heard about the hold in, right? Instead of the hold out, what was going on with him? And then, Pop and the whole business with him, with New England. We've been seeing this divorce coming for quite some time. Why now? Why a release for him now? And I imagine his market will be quite significant as well as a free agent.
I think a couple teams will be interested in him, yes. Now, his release has not happened yet. And that is worth noting. I mean, Belichick has said goodbye. Gilmore has said goodbye. They do intend to move on from him, but you can trade him up until 4 p.m. today. So a lot of times when news comes out very early in the morning, it comes out with everyone keeping all doors open. So by the Patriots making clear they're going to move on from him, if a team wants to trade for him, they could definitely do that. So I would definitely keep an eye on that. I think this relationship really ran its course. I mean, the Patriots were willing to give Gilmore a couple $1 million bump on his salary. They wanted to make sure he was healthy first. He hadn't practiced, remember, because he was on the PUP list. Gilmore wanted to get paid, wanted a bump in salary, and wasn't going to practice until he was able to do that. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me how this was going to end because those two things do not compute. So it's probably best that it ends this way because I didn't see any other resolution, especially not one that satisfied both the Patriots and Gilmore.
Ian Rapoport here on the Rich Eisen Show, 844-204-RICH, number to dial once we're done with Ian. Give that front load, and we got a couple more minutes left with my colleague from the NFL Media Group. Look, it's just, it kind of feel like I'm on a habit trail in a way when I mention the subject of Deshaun Watson, where we just keep churning around and around and around. Look, we have no idea what's going on the legal front. We have no idea what's going on the investigative front. We have no idea about a ton. The only thing that we know is that there's nothing on this green earth that will cause the Texans to call him up and saying, you got to play, or put him in that position, or Deshaun Watson's going to call up the Texans and say, you know what, I've had enough of what you see on my Instagram account.
It actually,
right.
It almost hurts them if he plays.
So the question, though, is the trade deadline is, I believe, just a little bit less than a month away than right now.
Yes.
So where are we? Is there any there? Because there's just so many hints being dropped that there's smoke, no fire, but there's, Nick Caserio would actually consider giving you pick protections now, so on and so forth. Where do things currently stand? Should we be paying attention to this sort of thing?
I mean, you should always pay attention because if it happens, it could happen very quickly. I haven't sensed anything imminent at all. I know there's been a lot of rumors. I pay attention to all of them. I make calls on all the time. I haven't sensed anything imminent with Deshaun Watson. And maybe there's something going on that I don't know about. I have not sensed it. I think a trade could happen. I think it could happen during the season. I think that would make sense. I think his legal situation, like you said, is still very much up in the air. We'll see what happens with that. But the same problem persists. He's never going to play for the Texans again. So the longer Nick Caserio holds him, if he can deal with the uncertainty of not trading him, and clearly he doesn't care because he's dealt with it already, then if you just wait until the offseason, doesn't the market get bigger? Can't you get more? Aren't you going to know what you're trading, what picks you're getting? So I know everybody wants it to get done, and believe me, I want it to get done so badly. So badly. So badly.
No, it's not that I want it to get done. I'm just knowing that there's so many teams whose fortunes would change instantly, and that there are teams that, by waiting, right? Like, for instance, and I know this would be completely out of character for the Steelers to do, but the urgency for Pittsburgh right now, and the thought that they could even twitch in a direction like this right now would be different than, say, next March, wouldn't it? Wouldn't you think?
I mean, it would change their season, yes, but then it's first of all, come in, new system, you already have Ben there. It would only make sense if you basically do not have a quarterback. Because then, he comes in, he practices for 2 weeks, splitting reps with Ben. That's hard to fathom. I don't know.
That's why I said it's out of. That's why I said
it would make sense for.
That's why I said it's out of character. I mean, look, and then he'd want to have to go there. That's the only reason why I bring it up is that just it would totally change the concept of what a season would look like for whichever team acquires him on the spot.
Right.
But the problem for the Texans would be is the draft choices that they get would instantly get worse because Deshaun Watson would play and start winning. So
right, because he's a very good quarterback.
Yes, I've heard that. Yes.
So, and that's why, I've never seen a situation like this. It is absolutely incredible. But but this is why there are so many different layers to it.
I guess that's the perfect way to end it, because that's the conversation starter we had with Urban Meyer. Never seen anything like it. There's nothing to describe it, and it's crazy, Ian. It really is.
Right.
Thanks for the time. Really appreciate it. We'll chat again soon.
All right, look forward to it.
There you
Take care.
go. That's Ian Rapoport at Rap Sheet. Right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.